that we've had him on, just flexing his muscle, talking about baseball, basketball, football, all of it. And we've got him back here this morning. Glenn, we appreciate your time. Good morning.
Hey guys, apologies for being a little late. I wasn't exactly sure what time we were going today, so that's on me.
No worries at all.
Glenn, don't you ever blame yourself for our inadequacies.
We're pretty.
You're the pro.
Yeah, and we're pretty laid back. You could have showed up at 9 a.m. We would have still done the interview.
Yeah, we just would have talked.
Awesome. Sounds good.
We appreciate you getting in here this morning. We'll start it with a lot of the conversation on social media the last couple of days have been circulating around the 2026 and 2027 recruiting classes for football in the state of Louisiana. We went on the 247 site this morning, and it's just when you look at, the 2026 class, you see a whole lot of LSU on the right side of your screen when it talks about the college team that's either they're committed to or leaning towards, and then this 2027 class with 4 5-stars in the state of Louisiana. Talk about those two recruiting classes and what they would mean for Brian Kelly and LSU.
Yeah, I think with LSU, anytime you can pull your base in the state of Louisiana, that's something that we hear from Brian Kelly pretty consistently when we're talking to him and when recruiting comes up in one of his press conferences. So you look at some of the players that are already on board. I believe 5 of the top 10 players on our 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings in the state of Louisiana are already committed to LSU. You've got Lamar Brown that's still out there that's uncommitted. So there's still some work to be done, obviously, in 2026 in locking down the state. But, yeah, you mentioned it there. I mean, looking ahead to 2027 and some of the big names that are starting to really rise up those rankings over the last several weeks, whether it's the Jesuit defensive pass rusher Zion Forstall. You got, of course, Elijah Haven, the 5-star quarterback. Peyton Houston's a really highly regarded quarterback in this class. You've got some running backs, some receivers. So all the positions here that LSU has typically recruited well in the state over the years. You're starting to see a lot of those guys really start to rise up those rankings, and so I think that they're in a really good spot. Just in terms of how they've proved themselves over the last couple of recruiting cycles in this state. In particular, I think they've done a really nice job. And if you can close on a guy like Lamar Brown in 2026, I think you're sitting real pretty here going into what's going to be an important next several months for recruiting with official visits and then some decisions that are going to be made in the month of July.
Yeah, Bo Bentley, the quarterback, 4-star quarterback, has LSU and Oklahoma as his final 2. He recently announced that he will be a part of the Elite 11 class this season. Talk about the quarterback out of Salina, Texas, and where LSU stands in that recruitment and what it would mean for the Tigers moving forward.
Yeah, look, I mean, when you're still kind of looking for the future pillar of your program at the quarterback position, and look, I'm not saying that guy is not already on the roster, whether it's Michael Van Buren, Colin Hurley, Juwan Johnson, but LSU went a recruiting cycle, as many of us know, or a freshman recruiting cycle without a quarterback, and that's something that you don't typically like to do as a program, especially when you have developed quarterbacks and proven that you can develop quarterbacks like LSU has over the last several years. And so the transition of obviously losing a guy like Bryce Underwood in last cycle, you kind of immediately shift your focus to 2026. And I think the guy that's really stood out for Joe Sloan, for the offensive staff at that quarterback spot, really since the turn of the new year, has been Bo Bentley. I mean, LSU was in on him, kind of earlier this year. They offered him back in February, but they've really cranked up the recruiting heat. He's been on campus already this spring. He'll be back on, I believe now he's changed his date, so he'll be back coming up here, I believe, next week and on May 30th. So that's going to be a huge weekend for the Tigers in this recruiting cycle, and getting a lot of, I think there's going to be double-digit visitors, but Bo Bentley is going to be a big name on campus because he's somebody that's just really soaring up the recruiting rankings since the turn of the new year. He's got a great He's already got great mechanics. He had a fantastic junior season last year at Salina, and has only continued to build on that in the offseason. So he's that guy that I think if LSU can get on board, some other things can come into place. But he's certainly I think at the top of the list of quarterbacks that LSU would love to bring in and kind of give you some youth and some youth presence as you look ahead to what life is going to be like without Garrett Nussmeier.
And I believe that there was a video that came out of Jabari Mack, an LSU commit, where he catches a touchdown pass, and everybody was like, "Whoa, I know Jabari Mack's good," but then you see Jackson Fields make the throw, and it became, is this a guy on anybody's radar? Because this is impressive. Is this a guy that LSU might be looking into? Because not highly recruited, but I'm starting to see on his Twitter that there are offers rolling in, and he will be at an LSU camp, I believe the 20th.
Yeah, this is going to be one to monitor for sure. I mean, I like you, Lloyd, hadn't really seen a whole lot of Jackson Fields buzz. I mean, he's now starting, I think, to catch on here going into his senior season. So I think, look, he's going to be on campus, like you mentioned, for a camp this summer. LSU typically, when they bring in these, in-state prospects at various positions that maybe don't have the offer sheet yet or don't have like the national acclaim that a lot of these other prospects do. They use these camps as a really good kind of examination ground, I guess, to really kind of get a good look and a good feel for the player. And so it's good that Jackson Fields is open to coming out and competing, and that's something that this staff has pretty typically responded well to. I mean, you go back a couple of recruiting cycles ago, Ashton Stantz was a guy who really wasn't on many people's radar, and he came in camp for LSU 2 or 3 times during the summer before his senior season. He walked away with an offer and committed pretty much on the spot. So, these things have happened before where maybe some lower ranked prospects have really caught on late in their careers and have gone to LSU camps and really thrived. And so, we'll see kind of what happens there. I still think all the eggs are right now in the Bo Bentley basket. Cole Bergeron is another Louisiana quarterback that I think you should be keeping an eye on. I think he goes to St. Thomas more. So there's a couple local guys for sure, but Bentley is the big prize that's out there that I think LSU would really love to get their hands on.
Looking at the 2026 class in the state of Louisiana, you see a whole lot of purple and gold and LSU logos on there, but there's a big red O sitting at the number 2 spot, and then down at number 11, there's the Longhorn logo with Hayward Howard and Blaine Bradford. Talk about those 2 commitments to big programs out of state for 2 of the state's best in the defensive backfield. And I think a lot of the fan base, when they saw them, are sitting in a place of it's not really over yet. Is that something that you would kind of a point that you would agree with?
Yeah, LSU is going to continue to recruit both of those guys. And, I think Howard was a guy that maybe Texas was in on really early, and he committed to them and was a really kind of been a late riser here of recent. So you're going to continue to work on him. Look, Blaine Bradford is a crown jewel here in Louisiana. He's a guy that you really hate to see leave the state. He seems pretty firm right now on Ohio State, but we're in May and we still got 7 months until signing period or signing day. And I think LSU is certainly not going to let up in their pursuit of Blaine Bradford, and will really crank it up because, I think really the ideal scenario here is that LSU is able to get Bradford on board and pair him with a guy like Aiden Hall, who's a really good young prospect at the safety position. And then that group really looks tremendous when you look at kind of the future, whether it's Deshaun Spears, it's already in the program. You've got a number of young guys signed up in the 2025 class. So they're really starting to rebuild that safety room. And obviously Blaine Bradford would go a long way in doing that if they're able to pull this off. But it's going to be a long process. I don't expect anything to really massively change over the summer. But maybe as you get into the fall and the winter months, you really crank up that heat and try to get him on campus a couple times and see if you can't make a dent into that commitment with the Buckeyes.